At the close of the Boston Marathon bombing trial, prosecutors pulled out the clothing and possessions of 8-year-old victim Martin Richard. Item by item, the last shreds of a boy's life were introduced in excruciating detail. A bloody jersey, bomb-melted shorts, metal, wood, and the devastating shrapnel that tore the breath away from a smiling child. As the Atlantic of May 17, 2019 notes, the jurors wept openly in court. Unsinkable explains on April 4, 2019, when a criminal trial concludes, we often think of the victims involved, the witnesses, loved ones, and family members impacted. However, we fail to recognize the jurors chosen to sit through the trial, observing evidence, deliberating, and required to decide a verdict. The Los Angeles Times looked specifically at this phenomenon on the El Chapo drug case on February 4, 2019, highlighting while jurors were protected physically by armed guards, they are far more likely to face a psychological threat, post-traumatic stress disorder. They further, decades of studies indicate this juror's stress mimics the duration and severity of the trauma first responders experience after a major tragedy. Despite this research, little to nothing has been done in the realm of protecting those who serve through jury duty. Given Psychology Today of May 3, 2019 illuminates 2/3 of jurors admitted experiencing physiological or psychological symptoms after serving on a jury, we must understand the problems, causes, and solutions to what one juror calls state-mandated trauma. Rebecca was one of the jurors who served on the 7-week murder trial of Becky Watts. She tells ITV News she could not unsee the graphic evidence and had no way to process it. This courtroom experience is far from uncommon and illuminates 2 key problems: evidence-based trauma and conviction guilt. First, the system was not set up for jurors. Thus, they are forced to experience gruesome evidence for days, sometimes months on end without support. A 2019 study in the Judge's Journal highlights exposure to disturbing images, emotional testimony, and other jury duty circumstances can lead to jurors experiencing psychological trauma and stress-related disorders. iNews of March 1st, 2019 reveals the disturbing video evidence shown in the Sion Broughton trial distressed a juror so irreversibly, they had to be dismissed. The Times of March 3rd, 2019 cites Judge Rees, who explains, jurors are exposed to really graphic material that is quite shocking. You would not be human if you were not affected by it. Second, jurors often worry they have made a wrong decision. The previously cited Psychology Today explains, jurors often feel guilt because they were unsure, or felt outside forces such as the court, media, or even other jurors were pressuring them to comply. NPR, June 14, 2019 reminds us of Lindy Lou Eisenhood, who helped sentence a 19-year-old boy to death after he murdered multiple women. She reconnected with her fellow jurors years after the trial and found a number of them still experienced intense feelings of burden, guilt, responsibility, and regret. Legally, Lindy and her fellow jurors made the right decision. The man was guilty, but psychologically, many of them never recovered from performing their civic duty. Mark Ferrant told CBC on June 15, 2017, after serving on the trial of a man convicted of murdering his 23-year-old girlfriend, the horrific loop of evidence still lurks in the shadows of his mind. He reached out to the courts, only to find silence on the other end of the phone. Eventually, he was diagnosed with PTSD. This story expresses our need to investigate 2 causes: juror exposure and abrupt dismissal. First, the Psychology Today of April 4th, 2019 explains, it is illegal to disclose the deliberation of a jury to anyone. Thus, you are forced to assimilate back into life without your usual support system of family and friends. The previously cited Judge's Journal explains, jurors are exposed to gruesome crime scenes and evidence, shocking visuals, and emotionally distressing testimonies. After being called to make life-altering or even death-causing sentences, jurors are left to process this overwhelming information alone. Without support, jurors are legally required to sit alone in their trauma, allowing it to fester and worsen by the day. Second, jurors are dismissed suddenly, without offered support. The American Bar Association shed light on this phenomenon on September 9, 2019, highlighting after a verdict is read and accepted by the courts, the jury is dismissed, and the trial is over. The previously cited NPR explains, after the trial, Lindy was told to collect her belongings and avoid reporters, because she was free to go. She laments, "I can't pretend to be happy. We had just sentenced a man to death. Now what?" This type of abrupt jury dismissal increases feelings of isolation, stress, and guilt. However, courts fail to address this issue effectively. The Superior Court of Arizona, updated February 22, 2018, reminds jurors, verbatim, if you're struggling with the aftermath of a trial, it is important you remember, the trial is now over, and you need to get on with your life. Inadequate resources like this highlight the continued perpetuation of trauma throughout the legal system. Dan Kazian's service left him haunted by horrible memories of foster parents abusing and neglecting 2- and 4-year-old girls that led to the death of the older child. Now, he's an advocate for jury support, showing despite these difficult stories, we can come to 2 solutions: pre- and post-trial resources. First, we must establish a nationwide pre- and post-trial plan. The previously cited Judge's Journal explains, pre-trial conversations can be used to educate jurors about the potentially stressful experiences they might encounter and how to cope with them. They further, immediately following the trial, a debriefing led by a trained clinician can help jurors process their reactions to the stressful event. The previously cited LA Times explains, the Health and Human Services Employee Assistance Program can extend a federal juror's term of service to access up to 6 free, confidential counseling sessions. We must make these benefits accessible and included in all court systems. Without a pre- and post-trial plan, all we're doing is exposing innocent people to traumatic content and letting them walk out the door with no idea how to move forward. But by providing our jurors with the support they need, we're protecting those forced to experience trauma in the name of civic duty. Second, on an individual level, we must be informed about the steps to reducing the negative impacts of jury trauma. The Fully Informed Jury Association is an organization that has been dedicated to fighting for jury rights for 29 years and has resources available to do so. Scan this QR code to see how you can help. It takes you directly to the Fully Informed Jury Association's volunteer organization. They have everything from organizing courthouse outreach to volunteering at an information table or even editing their kits online. There's something for everyone, so use your skills to help serve your community. I've also created a handout that can be given to jurors, explaining what to expect before the trial and what to expect after the verdict. North Carolina currently has a jury assistance program that provides care to jurors after the trial concludes. Tell me your state, and I'll send this letter to your senators, urging them to adopt a similar statewide jury protection program. At some point, every single one of us will be called to serve through jury duty. However, far too many people enter this duty without understanding the risks it holds. By being informed, we not only protect others from the potentially devastating impacts of jury trauma, we protect ourselves. After the terrifying trial known around the world for its brutal content, the Boston bombing judge arranged for federally funded counseling, making these jurors the lucky few provided with services to cope. But after analyzing the problems, causes, and solutions, we can see the blatant and intentional abandonment of those we forced to help. Jury trauma is a potentially devastating experience. However, by acknowledging how poorly constructed our system is, it doesn't need to be.